So we had to transfer the visits to Highbridge. There, Olga Tell was being monitored more and was asked to comply, and she was there being she was complying at that point because she was being observed. But when the visits were in Catholic Guardian, it was a nightmare. At times I would show up, they wouldn't even tell me that she wasn't showing up. At times the boys were expecting to see their siblings, they didn't get to. There was hardly no makeup visits. When we went to court, at times the caseworkers wasn't even prepared. Documents wasn't really ready to show the judge. I mean, it was just such a chaotic situation to be in. And they never reported that I was ready to bring in the children home. I had done everything by having my church involved, Times Square Church involved. They helped me with furniture for the apartment. They helped me with the washer. They gave me emotional support for Louis and Angel, because when they came back to me, they came back in horrible conditions with dental problems. Louis had terrible rotten teeth. They had to be removed at the age of 3. The emotional impacts of the removals, of giving them back, taking them and giving them back, it was horrible. The children acted out everywhere we went. It was just so many impacts for the children at such a young age. And so my concern was that you're claiming me neglectful, but yet you're letting so much happen to the children. You see that the sibling visits are not happening. You see that we're not getting along, the foster mother and I asked them to remove the children from her, and they still ignored me. They never did that. And then now today I'm still, and then after I've had the children, Louis and Angel, since 2009, and they came back in those conditions, and I worked so hard to bring them back to normal. Now they removed them again, using my history, using the history that I have of mental illness, which I didn't have anything. I have documents that prove my mental status at that time, that I didn't need any services. And so these people have used the history of them impacting me to keep these children back and forth. This is the 4th time about removing Louis and Angel, and Louis and Angel were doing so well. There's medical reports that prove how they have progressed in school, they have progressed in therapy, even going to church. They had a schedule where I used to take them Tuesdays and Sundays every day, every week, to, you know, just have like a school setting. That's where they learned to separate, because they were so impacted at first. They didn't want to separate. They had so much fear, anger, very much different emotions going on. And so this has been a real work now. Since 2008, this year is 2014, they removed them again abruptly. The caseworker that came in was the caseworker for that day. She didn't even look at the history of the children. These caseworkers come in acting like they own the children, like they're actually doing something for the children, and they violate people's rights. Not even allowing, because I had someone that was willing to help me with the boys and watch them while I finished cleaning the apartment. The other thing is, they said that there was no change in the apartment. That was a lie, because I had someone to come and help me in the apartment. And so I even took pictures and fixed the apartment, and I showed them in the meeting, when I went to the meeting for when they removed Louis and Angel, and they still allowed the children to stay in care, even knowing that the apartment was not as the way they made it seem. So I strongly suggest that if there's any parents out there that are going and getting violated by ACS, to come forward, because we as parents have to speak up for our children. We have to be their voice. Otherwise, they're going to keep violating people, using their power to do evil and destroy and impact people's lives, and they're getting away with it because they're using their power to do evil and keeping children that don't need to be in care, keeping them in care. And there are times, like with my children, my daughter, I was forced to put her in respite, where she stood 3 nights in St. Vincent's Hospital for having pneumonia, and I had to stay with her 3 nights there, because every time they make me take the children from me, or they make me place them somewhere, the children suffer some kind of way, and they get harmed or sick. So to me, it's just like now they're taking my life for a game. And because of this, my mom, they had said my mom was about how she could hurt the children. My mother fell into depression, had a multiple stroke, which caused her no speech, and she was paralyzed from one side. And she passed away April 22nd of 2014, just last month. And the effects that this has had on my life has been enormous. The children are always in fear. Now they don't even like to meet people. They're very quiet. And the way they removed Louis and Angel was horrible. A cop from the 30th precinct, I don't know his name, came because she Once I spoke to my neighbor, I told my neighbor what was happening. My neighbor was willing to watch them. She still enforced the cops to come, this worker. And this worker, first of all, she doesn't know my life. She didn't even make sure that she understood what was going on. She totally acted very rude. She was screaming out my business on Broadway. Everybody on Broadway heard everything. And they saw the way those boys ran for their lives. When they saw the cops, they ran. When they saw the cops, they started running backwards, back into the building, up the stairs. The cops chased them. And they grabbed them forcefully, forcing them into the police car. And the children were so impacted and crying and in fear.
What message would you like to tell the public advocate and the mayor, Bill de Blasio? What message would you like to share with them right now?
I would like to ask them, as a parent, to monitor ACS. Who is monitoring ACS and who is really watching out for the things that they're doing to people and the things they're getting away with? And nobody is actually putting any emphasis on how they are impacting families. They're impacting families in such a huge way, and they're totally traumatizing people and getting away with it, and they're using their power to do evil. And even though they know I'm a good mom, they have put me through a storm, and they have not let me even breathe. I've been dealing with this for so long. They left me with arrears. I was evicted in November, and even when they stopped the visits for the siblings, my older son Robert bought my son Louis a puppy, and because I was evicted, they locked me out and I wasn't able to get the puppy. The puppy was sent to the adoption, and they made me pay for the puppy $150, and I still lost the puppy. So we paid twice for the puppy, and that was another impact for Louis. And it was just a horrible thing. I had preventive services involved. That preventive worker, his name is Roland Botain, he at first was working good with me and he was trying to help me, but as he started to get closer and know more the case, and I expressed to him how they had mentally impacted the children, he started asking questions, and he was very concerned about my whereabouts and where I would be and stuff like that, and he was making it seem like he wanted to come over to help me. And so when I was evicted, things were stolen from my apartment. The super let them in. They took a lot of things so that I would have to pay them, get things over again, so then I could get stuck in the rent again. And so these are things that's happened since January. So I got the apartment back, but then things were stolen in the apartment, and because my mom had died, I was going through so much. I didn't have the chance to actually clean up the apartment, but I did clean up, and it wasn't the way this caseworker made it seem. She made it seem like I didn't do anything. And that's what they do. And then they use the history of my case to try to use that and keep me in this situation. Where if I was so mentally disturbed the way they're trying to seem, I wouldn't be able to handle Louis and Angel. Because they came back terrible. I mean, I have proof of letters from my church of their behaviors and how they were in so much anger and fear and frustrations. And I'm just curious to how the system has allowed ACS to gain so much power that no one is watching what they're doing, and they lie to get into people's homes, come in, they don't help the way they should. They offered furniture for the children, they never did that, and what they've done is traumatize my whole entire family, where to the point we're all so upset and always, wanting to see each other. Now the boys are back in foster care after I've complied repeatedly, done more than what they asked me to do. Now I'm back at square one to do visits again and do these things all over again. It's a horrible feeling because you don't feel like an adult. You're being told what to do, but then when you need help, there's nobody to help you. They left me with 15 in arrear. These are the 4 children. This is Demetrius, age 6. This is Angel, age 8. This is Louis. He's gonna be 9. He's 8.5 in July. This is Alani. Her birthday just passed this month in May 19th. She just turned 7. And these children are very close children, and it's a shame that families are being torn apart instead of reuniting families and do what they're supposed to be doing. But they're using their power to destroy families mentally. They're playing so many strategies to keep people in care and use their mental status against them, and this is something that has to end. There has to be someone to put their foot down and really monitor ACS, because they're totally destroying people's lives. And I really am looking forward for parents to open their mouths and speak up for their children, because otherwise their children are going to go through the system. They're going to be just a number. They're always going to be going back and forth from home to home like mine have. And I don't want to see another family go through the experiences that I've experienced. It's been a horrible experience. I've worked so hard, and now I can't even go to the children's school to see them, and they're just a few blocks away from me. And I've had them all this time. All this time they were with me, and they improved so much. This is another setback for those boys, Louis and Angel. They should be home, and Alani and Demi should be home. We should be a family, and that's something that I'm advocating for, because I know my children. This is a close family. This family is not supposed to be torn apart this way, and the system is getting away with everything.